This is Histories and Mysteries. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Richelle.
And if you didn't notice, Ashley is not here. She is visiting her family, which she's needed to do for a while. So, she's not here.
This is a Canadian show today.
Yeah.
Sorry, Americans are kicking it out.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize. The Canadian show.
We should try and fit as many Canadian references as we can just to trip her up.
Like maple syrup. I don't know where that's going from. I just woke up from a nap. I have been violently ill the last few days, so I hope I can do okay today.
So I was listening to last week's episode, of course, as I had car troubles and was just miserable. But I totally caught the Silence of the Lambs reference that Ashley put in there. It made me die laughing.
What?
And then I couldn't believe that you had no idea what it was.
Nope, no idea.
It puts the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Oh, yeah, no, nope. No idea, but I did watch it. I think the next night. I was disappointed.
Come on, Jess.
I was disappointed. Mainly because the ending was just very lackluster for me. I think I expected it to be a bit more in your face than it actually was.
You might like Red Dragon, then Red Dragon is the prequel. It was made after. Yeah. But that's a much wilder ride. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't I just think, spoiler alert, I mean, the movie's been out forever, but I feel the ending, his death was just very anticlimactic, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I feel there was no way he should have missed her, you know? I don't know.
A fictional movie was not realistic enough for Jess.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So, to kind of get us back on track here.
I know we don't have Ashley to keep us on track.
I know. we don't have the old one to keep us in check.
Older.
She's old. Oh, this is gonna be good. Okay. So
what are we doing this week, Jess?
Yeah, so I was starting out by doing Project Pegasus, but I couldn't find a lot of information on it. A lot of it, a lot of the links I went to said that the website couldn't be found. So I think a lot of it was taken down.
That's suspicious.
Exactly. Very suspicious. So it kind of turned into a Nikola Tesla story. That's and all about his research and how it ties into Project Pegasus. Sorry, my cat just came across the camera. She's laying across my laptop right now.
Hi.
So yeah, it kind of turned into a Nikola Tesla story, but Project Pegasus is in there, so it's real cool. And Richelle is going to be doing Project Stargate because it's a little theme episode.
Mm-hmm.
Secret projects.
Yeah, because we know what we're doing.
Yeah, we're good sometimes. We're just a little off the rails today.
I have a really good joke for the end of this episode, and I'm very excited to tell you.
Okay, good. I'm excited to hear it. I need some laughter.
I'm gonna look up Canadian references while you get started.
Oakley dokley. Are we ready for the Canadian episode of your dreams?
We sure are.
Okay. So Nikola Tesla was born in 1856 in Croatia. There was a word before that, and I'm not pronouncing it.
I thought you were going to be like, he was born in 1856. In 1856.
Oh. No, there's like the city he was born in Croatia, but I don't want to mispronounce it, and I didn't look up pronunciation. So he was just born in Croatia.
Mm-hmm.
It was a part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire at the time. In 1863, Tesla's brother Daniel was killed in a riding accident. The loss unsettled the 7-year-old Tesla, who reported seeing visions, the first signs of his lifelong mental illnesses. Also, who names their child Tesla? It's weird.
It's Nikola Tesla.
I know. I'm taking that out.
They didn't get to choose.
Okay. Starting off strong here. During the 1890s, Mark Twain became friends with Tesla. Mark often visited his lab and photographed him in one of the first phosphorescent light photos.
Mm.
In 1884, Tesla moved to New York and worked as an engineer at Thomas Edison's Manhattan headquarters. Tesla's perseverance and creativity wowed Edison. Edison offered Tesla $50,000 in exchange for a better design for his DC dynamos. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, especially, what is this? What did we say this was? 1856?
1890s.
1890s.
1884. Yeah.
Mm.
Crazy. Lots of money. Tesla proposed a solution and requested the funds after months of testing. Tesla, you don't grasp our American humor, Edison retorted. Tesla resigned shortly after.
Americans, why are you so mean all the time?
So mean.
Calm down.
I mean, that's a little petty that he just randomly resigned because he didn't understand humor, but Tesla secured backers to support his study into alternating current after an unsuccessful attempt to launch his own Tesla electric light company and a period digging ditches for $2 a day, which is not a lot of money. He was given more than 30 patents for his discoveries in 1887 and 1888, and he was invited to speak to the American Institute of Electrical Engineers about his work. The inventor who had built the first AC power system in Boston was Edison's main adversary in the Battle of the Currents. George Westinghouse was drawn to his talk. Tesla invented electric oscillators, meters, improved lighting, and the Tesla coil, which is a high voltage transformer, and he did all of that in the 1890s. Tesla's New York lab burned down in 1895, losing years of documents and equipment.
Oh no.
I know, isn't that awful? That it was sabotage. Tesla spent 2 years in Colorado Springs before returning to New York in 1900. He got financial backing from J.P. Morgan and started developing a global communications network based on a massive tower in Wardenclyffe, Long Island. However, Tesla's extravagant proposals were rejected by Morgan due to a lack of cash. On January 7th, my mom's birthday, 1943, Tesla died in his room. Oh, that's sad. Later that year, the United States Supreme Court struck down 4 of Marconi's most important patents, finally admitting Tesla's radio inventions. He championed and refined the AC system, which is still the global standard for power transmission. Inexplicable things had happened wherever Dr. Nikola Tesla was involved, as indicated in the previous article. Dr. Tesla, on the other hand, kept a tight lid on many of these details and even avoided taking any patents. Tesla is said to have achieved the astounding discovery of how to bend space-time using electricity.
That's cool.
Isn't it real cool? Did you ever see The Sorcerer's Apprentice?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's like the oscillators.
Interesting.
big oscillator coils. This leads to yet another perplexing discovery, which is teleportation. Many websites, movies, and conspiracy theories, such as Andrew Basiago, and Alfred Bielek, mention a massive US Navy project based on Tesla's inventions. The Philadelphia experiment, or Project Rainbow, was the name given to this project. The Philadelphia experiment, as it was known at the time, was an attempt to build a ship that could not be detected by radar or magnetic sea mines. However, other experts claim it was a project aimed at making Navy ships invisible and teleporting them. It was designed for use during World War II to allow naval boats to alter their locations quickly and undetected while at sea.
That's cool.
Isn't it really interesting? Nikola Tesla was named as one of the project's directors. He was given everything that he needed to complete the project's testing. Tesla was given an empty naval battleship on which the experiments were to be carried out. And in the year 1940, the first teleportation test took place when the entire ship, which had no sailors on board, vanished from normal human perspective. The test was deemed a complete success. 2 enormous Tesla coils were mounted on the ship's hull during the experiment. The coils were activated in a specific order, and their electromagnetic force was so strong that it bent gravity and space-time. The entire ship was able to teleport away from its current location as a result of this. So freaking cool.
What? That's insane.
I know. Tesla began to develop concerns about the experiment's safety, though. He believed that the project was far too risky for humans, so he advised an entirely new method of disclosing the project's hazards. We've already seen how Tesla declared publicly that he was in regular contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. He went on to say that if someone entered the ship during the teleportation experiment, humans might have a big problem. Within this reality, the intense electromagnetic radiation would harm them. He went on to say that extraterrestrial creatures have confirmed that the experiment would pose a severe problem. Tesla did everything he could to persuade the US Navy not to undertake the experiment with humans on board the ship. Before any additional trials, Tesla wanted to make sure that everything was clear. The US Navy, on the other hand, rejected it and demanded that the experiment be carried out regardless of the circumstances and with immediate results. Tesla took special precautions before the following experiment after receiving this response from the Navy. He tampered with the equipment so that nothing would function, and therefore the second test failed. He later resigned and departed the project in March of 1942.
I cannot imagine just giving up like that.
Isn't that insane? But I mean, if it's not going safely, why would you want to continue it, right? He didn't want to harm humans.
Yeah, I guess so.
The unified field theory of Tesla was supposed to form the basis for this experiment. Tesla claimed to have finished work on unified field theory in 1943, shortly before his death. His views, though, were never published. Many of Tesla's research papers were taken by the FBI shortly after his death, according to conspiracy theorists. This information further emphasizes the similarity between his death year and the intended start date of the Philadelphia experiment. The Philadelphia project was restarted by the US Navy shortly after his death. The USS Eldridge, a US Navy ship that will be used for testing, was discharged into Philadelphia Bay in October 1943. Many crew members were on board, unaware that a teleportation test was being conducted. The observers who were aware of the experiment were meticulously recording every detail of the test and holding their breath until they awaited the findings. The Tesla coils were charged up as the actual test began. This formed a powerful electromagnetic field surrounding the ship, which grew stronger over time and spread as far as 100 yards in all directions, making a huge sphere. The ship was then surrounded by greenish fog. The entire ship vanished from view, much to the surprise of the watchers. The USS Eldridge had not only vanished from the eyes of Philadelphia watchers, but it had also vanished entirely from Philadelphia Bay. The ship had been transported hundreds of miles from Philadelphia to Norfolk Bay, Virginia, in an instant. The ship departed from Norfolk and returned to Philadelphia after a few minutes. The test had gone off without a hitch, according to the U.S. Navy. They had not only rendered a ship invisible to radar, but they had also made it optically vanish, as well as teleporting it hundreds of miles away in minutes.
That is nuts.
Isn't that wild? But the thing is that, if it was successful, why don't we do it anymore?
Because it's dangerous.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're saying that it was successful, and obviously it wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, my story is similar.
Did you ever watch Stargate?
No.
So
Such a show.
Yeah, it was a show and a couple movies, or maybe just one movie, but it was a show called Stargate. It's really cool.
Oh, interesting.
Stargate SG-1. There was also one underwater, I think. I think it was called Stargate Atlantic, something like that. It was very good. You should watch them. They soon recognized, though, that the test had grave consequences for the ship's crew members. Oh, there we go. The test had rendered the entire ship's phase with the surrounding cosmos out of phase, allowing it to sail from Philadelphia to Norfolk in a moment. The crew members were severely affected by the phasing effect. Surprisingly, the crew members discovered they could pass through solid things throughout the experiment. A few sailors were discovered stuck in the ship's metallic structures after the experiment was turned off. After this experiment, a few people went insane and others vanished for a few days. After witnessing the experiment's disastrous consequences, the Navy halted all further research on radar and optical invisibility, and the Philadelphia project was abandoned. That's wild.
That doesn't sound like that. Does not even sound real.
I know.
That's insane.
But can you just imagine people just halfway stuck through walls, like in Jumanji?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Then, in late 1955, when Carl M. Allen, an ex-merchant mariner who claimed to have witnessed the event, sent a book full of handwritten annotations referring to the experiment to a U.S. Navy research organization, and a few months later, a series of letters making additional claims to a UFO book writer. Allen's version of events is widely believed to be fake. The U.S. Navy asserts that no such experiment was ever carried out, that the intricacies of the narrative contradict well-known facts concerning the USS Eldridge, and that the supposed claims violate physics. Oh shit. But that's also them just covering their butts. Again. Tesla was 87 years old in 1942. However, a close examination of the aforementioned events revealed his unwavering confidence in the Almighty and his holy precepts. He had the foresight to say no to the U.S. Navy's most vital endeavor. Tesla was a firm believer in the idea that no technology should be destructive to humanity. Even at the age of 87, this great scientist, who dedicated his entire life to the advancement of mankind, refused to sacrifice his own goals and heavenly beliefs. This is what brings Nikola Tesla's greatness to the forefront. He stood alone against all evil simply because he recognized what they were doing was wrong and against mankind's best interests. And now, we're on Project Pegasus.
Ooh. I mean, I after you were like, I don't know why they would call him Tesla. All I could think of is another in other news in terms of Teslas and weird fucking names. Did you see that Elon Musk and Grimes had another baby and its name is just as weird as the first one?
No.
It is. Hold on. It's a girl this time.
Aww.
And it is called. So the boy we know is X Ash Archangel or something. Yeah. But the girl, Exa Dark Sidriel.
What? Do they hate their children?
Aims of the future. I don't know.
Wild. Okay. Well, to each their own. Okay. So a Seattle attorney named Andrew Bashego has claimed that he was part of a time travel experiment and sent back to Gettysburg using technology that was derived from the work of Nikola Tesla. He was able to get on this project because his father was the chief technical consultant. Since 2004, Andrew has claimed that between the ages of 7 and 12, he was a participant in a secret US government program that worked on teleportation and time travel as part of a secret DARPA, which is Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, experiment called Project Pegasus, which was a precursor to the Montauk Project and the Philadelphia experiment. Children were utilized in the program's tests, which began in the 1970s, because they could adjust effectively to the pressures of shifting between past, present, and future. Bashego claimed to have visited Ford's Theater 5 or 6 times on the night of President Abraham Lincoln's assassination and was photographed at Gettysburg in 1863 as one of those time-traveling children. And the picture is really cool. There is a picture of a child standing in a field at Gettysburg. And like I've heard podcasts on this before, and they're saying, you know, like it looks like he's wearing sneakers and not wearing clothes kind of the time. But it honestly, like the only thing that looks out of place is the kid. Like his clothing all looks legit, but I mean, I'm not a specialist or anything. So,
Yeah,
but I mean,
I don't see sneakers. They look very similar
right?
to the other shoes that the other kids are
Yeah,
wearing.
exactly. Like they just look kind of like those short boots, right? Like some
Yeah.
shoes.
Like
Yeah,
he even
I
has
don't
a
know.
hat on that's the same as the other
Yeah,
kid.
exactly. So it's like the only thing that seems out of place is the fact that there's a child standing in the middle of it. But other than that, like I don't really think that he looks too out of place. But it would be cool if that is him. Who knows though?
It's too blurry to ever see detail.
Exactly. Yeah. During the course of the project, Bashego claims to have encountered 8 different time travel technologies, but the majority of them involved a teleporter based on technical papers allegedly discovered in pioneering mechanical engineer Nikola Tesla's New York City apartment after his death in January 1943. And remember, there's that theory that the FBI confiscated all of his documents after he died. Quote, a dazzling curtain of what Tesla dubbed radiant energy was disseminated between 2 gray elliptical booms about 8 feet tall, separated by roughly 10 feet. Radiant energy is a type of energy discovered by Tesla that is latent and widespread throughout the universe and has the ability to bend time and space as one of its qualities. It's as if they were transporting us to slightly different alternate realities on adjacent timelines, Bashego said of his visits to the past. As the number of trips grew, I ran into myself twice during 2 separate visits, he said, which is never good.
Yeah, Family Guy tells you one thing.
Mm-hmm. It also, it was a good episode. It also reminds me of, Spider-Man and, yeah, the new Spider-Man.
And on two
The comics.
superheroes. I hate superhero movies.
Well, it also just kind of like, well, there's like, I think, correct me if you won't be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but like listeners can correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe in the comics, there was the multiverse and the 3 Spider-Mans all met each other from their different universes. And that was also what the latest Spider-Man movie was based off of. And I think it came out in that time era. So he could have just been watching too much of that and was like, oh yeah, I met a couple of myself in the past. And could have just been like an overactive imagination of a child. And I don't know. I would like to believe that time travel exists, but I also am like, there's an explanation for everything. So who knows? Being sent back in time to the same location and time, but starting from different positions in the present, permitted him to be in Ford's Theater at the same time in 1865. He said, "I was anxious that my cover would be exposed after the first of these two interactions with myself. Unlike my jump to Gettysburg, when I had a letter from Navy Secretary Gideon Welles offering me aid and assistance if I was detained, I didn't have any explanatory materials when I was dispatched to Ford's Theater." Alfred Weber, a lawyer specialized in exopolitics, or the political ramifications of an extraterrestrial presence on Earth, backs up Basiago's allegations. Teleportation and time travel, according to Weber, have existed for 40 years, but have been hoarded by the Defense Department rather than being used to transport commodities and services. In 2016, Andrew Basiago ran for president.
What?
Yeah, he said, "I have prior information that not only will I run for president, but that during one of the elections, which would have to be between 2016 and 2028, since I'm not running beyond that, I will be elected president or vice president."
Nah. No.
A statement on his campaign website read, quote, "For 70 years, the US government has been concealing advanced technologies because they might be socially, economically, or technically disruptive in nature. These technologies include the teleportation technology developed by DARPA's Project Pegasus. It may also include cancer cures. The government should begin a program to declassify and deploy this knowledge. The standard of technical disclosure should be what provides the people the best available technology. This will enable the United States to reclaim its mantle as the world's catalyst of applied science." Unquote. And spoiler alert, he did not become president.
What?
But his work as a child during Project Pegasus provided him with some unique insight into the election, as the CIA used the technology to find a short list of potential presidents. Quote, "As for Hillary Clinton, I have no data," Basiago said in 2016. "I think it is reasonable to infer that were she a future president, there would have been a pre-ID of her. As for Trump, I have a vague memory that my father took special note of Trump during an appearance by him on the Phil Donahue show and might have even commented that he was a future US president." And that is my story on Nikola Tesla and Project Pegasus. And my sources were Cult of Weird, a blog that I cannot pronounce, Wikipedia, and history.com.
So that was great right up until that Andrew Borshega guy came into the picture, because what a load of bullshit.
Wasn't it wild? Like, it would be so cool if it was real, but like, honestly, buddy.
Yeah.
Now, tell me all about Project Stargate. I'm so pumped. I was so excited when you told me that you were doing it. So let's get this shit going.
So I actually put in like so much effort this week because I was really enjoying researching. So this is 100% written by yours truly.
Aww,
and
nice.
I'm very proud of it.
I'm proud of
it's
you.
any good. All right, so I've got a lot of resources, but I'll save them to the end. And I wanted to start off with a quote by English poet William Blake. "If the scales of perception fell from our eyes, we would see everything as it really is, infinite." Have you ever had a thought, a dream, a very strong hunch about something that later became true?
Yes.
Have you been stuck with a feeling about something so strong that you couldn't shake the inkling that it was going to happen, even if it seemed entirely outlandish?
Yes.
Of course, it must all be coincidence, right? There's no way that psychic abilities like that could ever really exist. It's all a big party trick to use to exploit the naive, right? Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Perhaps the ability to see the future lives within each and every one of us. Maybe those who claim to have psychic powers have somehow been able to tune into that ability in a way that others haven't. What if there was a way to harness these powers even if you don't tune into it naturally? Could anyone learn to be psychic?
Yes.
If so, how could that knowledge be put to use? Enter Project Stargate.
Cool.
It's no secret that the government likes to keep things hidden from the average civilian. If the Roswell UFO incident in New Mexico isn't enough to convince you that there is no way things are being covered up, there's pages upon pages of detailed conspiracies that attempt to explain some of the strange inconsistencies regarding what the government does behind doors. In recent years, 2017 to be exact, the CIA actually went public with some of the projects they had been working on. There is an online archive of declassified UFO documents that are now available for anyone to look into.
Cool.
Although Stargate didn't deal with the existence of extraterrestrials, can't deny that its purpose and execution was inherently supernatural. So what exactly is Project Stargate?
Tell me.
In short, it was a $20 million program that began back in the mid-1970s and aimed to develop psychic abilities in agents and military personnel.
So cool.
Before we delve into the details of the Stargate projects, it's important that we have a good understanding of a phenomenon called remote viewing. Defined as the ability to acquire accurate information about a distant or non-local place, person, or event without using your physical senses or any other obvious means. Remote viewing is associated with the idea of clairvoyance, seemingly being able to spontaneously know something without actually knowing how you got the information. It's also sometimes referred to as anomalous cognition or second sight. In actuality, many people experience this to a certain degree. After all, in its simplest form, remote viewing is nothing more than intuitive flashes of insight that turn out to be true. There is one key difference between what is seen as natural psychic ability and remote viewing, and that is that the latter is a trained skill that any average person can learn to do.
Cool.
Yes, you heard right. You can learn to be psychic. Well, you can learn the skills that you need to be able to retrieve information in a way that seems like psychic powers to anyone none the wiser. You can think of it like the varying degrees of musical talent within different people. Some are seemingly born with the ability to sing beautifully or pick up any instrument and play, but even if you aren't gifted in those ways, probably could still hum or whistle a tune to some degree, even if it is at the expense of a few eardrums.
Like your karaoke with your neighbors.
Yeah. If you think of it from the viewpoint of a government who is constantly searching for information regarding the plans of other governments worldwide, having a team of people who can retrieve important information without ever having to leave their office space would be invaluable. It completely eliminates the risks involved with travel, information hacking, and the danger of the unknown. It's beneficial, and honestly, it's just really fucking cool.
So cool.
Most ancient civilizations appear to have been acquainted with the knowledge of this particular faculty of the human mind. It's certainly not a new concept. In both Indian and Chinese scriptures, there are instances of clairvoyant skills of people being used as a tool for obtaining relevant military information on the battleground. Flashback to the tensions of the Cold War. The United States government was hoping to deploy a brand new weapon against the Soviet Union. No guns, no nuclear bombs, just good old-fashioned mind reading. Psychic espionage, if you will. And the Soviet had its inklings that the US had been using it at sea since the Second World War. While we don't know for sure if this was actually going on or not, the Soviets jumped onto their own psychic training. And when US caught news of that, they too began their own training program, eventually becoming known as Stargate.
Cool.
The CIA sent money and resources to the Stanford Research Institute on the Stanford University campus to begin testing the possibility of remote viewing. The SRI became the main headquarters for the project. In the beginning, the goal was actually to disprove any claims that psychic functioning was real. They knew the Soviet had been dabbling in it, and anything that could possibly be used as a weapon against the US was a huge threat. Russell Targ and Hal Puthoff, two physicists working for the SRI, were given the task of determining whether extrasensory perception, or ESP, and other related phenomenon were in fact real or not. They began to source out some natural psychics to bring them in for testing. The first subject was Ingo Swann from New York City. As an artist, psychic, and scientist, Swann had been able to accurately forecast the weather in some American cities. He had also penned articles about ESP and psychokinesis, as well as the ability to mentally affect distant objects during his time working with Gertrude Schmeidler of City College.
Also, where is the psychic telling us how the weather is now? It's always wrong.
I know, right? I know. During his time working with Gertrude Schmeidler of City College, Swann had shown that he could affect the temperature of resistance thermometers sealed in insulated thermos canisters located 25 feet away from him. It was his friend who suggested he send his published findings to the team at SRI, who then invited him to come demonstrate. After their initial tests with Swann, the team was convinced he had special abilities, so the program to test and develop remote viewing began. Soon after beginning the program, Swann found the tests they were conducting quite boring, as he had no trouble viewing what they were asking of him. They had to find something a little more challenging. This new test came in the form of viewing coordinates pointed out on a giant atlas, and Swann again was extremely successful. Swann went on to use randomly chosen numerical coordinates to view randomly selected events, people, and structures around the planet. He was able to very clearly describe how he was able to do his viewing and created a 6-stage system that could be used to teach anyone how to do it. CRV, otherwise known as coordinate controlled remote viewing, is based on separating signal from noise in your mind while viewing. During this process, all the information is recorded during a session, but the viewer records the noise in a different place on the paper than the signal. At the end of the session, you can separate them from one another. The method became the basis of the remote viewing protocols that the US Army taught to several groups of viewers until the program ended in 1995. The SRI also invited ex-Israeli paratrooper and psychic Uri Geller to come to the program for testing. At this time, Geller was best known for his alleged ability to bend metal cutlery with his mind, but the CIA was more interested in his claims to be able to read the minds of others and even control them with his own. The now declassified published documents confirm the CIA analysts were hoping to probe Geller's abilities in mind projection and its possible uses in national security. In the winter of 1975, Geller participated in a series of classified psychokinesis tests at a lab in Livermore, California, where scientists were developing advanced nuclear warheads, laser systems, and other emerging weapons technologies. The experiments in psychic espionage, oh man, that's so hard to say. Yeah. The experiments in psychic espionage were able to assist in many top secret programs before its ultimate demise and declassification. Army veteran Joseph McMonigal was involved in approximately 450 missions between 1978 and 1984 that included helping locate hostages in Iran and putting CIA agents to the shortwave radio concealed in the pocket calculator of a suspected KGB agent captured in South Africa.
Wow.
Angela Delafiora Ford was asked to help track down former customs agent who had gone on the lam in 1989 and was able to successfully pinpoint his location as Lowell, Wyoming. Not so shockingly, considering the shady past of the government's concealment, many things, the Pentagon continuously denied spending any money on psychic research, even as reports detailing the experiments were leaked. It was in 1995 that the CIA finally acknowledged the government's involvement. Fortunately, it was concluded that Stargate was considered a failure, as it never brought up any conclusive evidence about the use of remote viewing, despite its many successful experiments. It's like very similar to your story in a way.
Yeah, but it's very cool.
Yeah, like all these successful experiments, but it's a failure overall.
Yeah.
Although the Stargate program ceased in 1995, it didn't mark the end of psychic phenomena research within the government. There have been recent projects that have also been proven to be of help in different areas. In 2014, the Office of Naval Research launched a 4-year program to explore the use of the sixth sense, diving into the possibility of using premonition and intuition to their advantage. Dr. Edwin May, who had been involved with the team on Stargate, continued to advocate for ESP as a legitimate tool for military and domestic intelligence even after the program had been shut down. His most recent study in 2015, in his words, is probably the best experiment in the history of the field. It doesn't seem like the interest in psychic espionage is waning even to this day. You have to admit, even if you have skeptic tendencies, the concept is just too intriguing to dismiss entirely. In a 2005 poll, it was recorded that 73% of Americans believed in some kind of paranormal phenomena, with 41% believing in ESP specifically. Personally, I wholeheartedly believe that in this massive expanse of a universe that we live in, there is no way that paranormal phenomena doesn't exist to some degree.
Well, exactly.
I've experienced too many coincidences to shut down the possibility of ESP and psychic powers. Does that make me crazy? Maybe. But I like to think you'd be crazier to dismiss the possibilities.
Yeah.
Now that we've covered the details of the Stargate program and learned that remote viewing is something that could potentially be done by anyone, I want to finish off with a little exploring of how to do it. Before even attempting it, you have to be willing to open the aperture of your perception. That's how Ingo Swann explains it. Remember him from the first few tests? Remote viewing works differently than how you would normally describe your perceptions. If you were asked to describe something, you would most likely use nouns and symbols to do so. Remote viewing works in the opposite way. You begin by describing your perceptions without trying to identify anything about what they mean or what the larger picture is. Starting with the basics, you record the general components of the target, like whether it's living, man-made, or natural. Then you narrow down slightly and record things like colors, smells, temperatures, shapes, and sizes. Once you've spent some time describing the target, you can begin making more specific descriptions, like names, nouns, and analytical information. Our minds are built to try and make conclusions out of what we are perceiving, but this can be detrimental to successful remote viewing. When it comes to remote viewing, the fainter the perception, the more likely it is to be accurate. Seems strange, but this is considered the paradox of remote viewing. According to Swann, good remote viewers learn to trust the feelings of uncertainty and ambiguity they get during a session. A good remote viewing session is one in which the viewer has no idea what they've been doing or if it's accurate or not. It seems backwards to think that sessions in which the viewer feels confident is most likely to be totally inaccurate. Once you get used to it, you'll learn to trust your intuition more and let go of the need for rationalization. Remote viewing is scientifically proven to work, but it seems so far-fetched, one can't help but wonder how. No one really knows for sure, but there are theories that say resonance, vibration, and frequency just might have something to do with it. Looking into the way our brains work, we know that right brain thinking is free-flowing, intuitive, and descriptive, while left brain thinking is analytical, linear, and symbolic. Those who become good at remote viewing also become good at discerning the differences between the two, and thus can separate signal from noise. So where exactly does the information come from? Although you can't see it, all around you, there is electromagnetic information coming from cell phone signals, radio waves, TV signals, and more. It presents itself to you through a type of vibrational resonance that fills space-time. Receivers tune into the frequency of those signals will pick them up in order to be amplified. Remote viewing won't necessarily amplify the signal you're viewing, but it will help you learn to reduce the mental noise. If you want to give it a try, here's a little experiment I found on liveabout.com or liveabout.com. I must warn you in advance, it does take quite a bit of time. 6 hours is what the instructions indicate for this activity.
Wow.
Find yourself a partner and decide who's going to be the viewer and who will be the sender. If you're viewing, you'll be the one to receive the information, while the sender is the one who transmits it. You'll need a third party to select 15 to 20 possible targets. The targets must be actual places, preferably within driving distance. Ask the third party to write down key details about each target on cards, including any landmarks, geographic features, structures, and directions. The more details, the better. The third party should then seal the targets away into their own envelopes. They must be unmarked and opaque enough that you cannot see through them. Have a fourth party randomly select one of the envelopes and give it to the sender. Decide on a time frame for the experiment. The viewer and the sender should have absolutely no contact during this time. After viewing the target location in their envelope, the sender should make their way to that location. The viewer should prepare by getting as relaxed as possible without any distractions in the room where their viewing session will happen. The sender then begins surveying the area and using their thoughts to transmit every little detail they see to the viewer. I think of it sort of like how you would use your thoughts in meditation. The viewer should begin recording any perceptions they have, the shapes, the colors, smells, anything they pick up. The sender should also make note of the details they can see around them. Once the experiment is over, both sets of notes should be given to another party for comparison. This is something that takes a lot of practice, so don't give up if you're unable to come up with anything conclusive the first few times you try it. So, my dear listeners, I challenge you to give it a try. You never know just how much power your mind holds. If you are by chance successful, we'd love to hear about your experience. And of course, if you have any cool stories about ESP, send them to us.
Have you done it?
I haven't, no. I really want to try it, though.
Yeah, do it. That'd be so exciting to see. I literally do not have 6 extra hours to spare in my life, so I will not be able to do it, but...
So my sources were an article in cnet.com by Bonnie Burton, history.com by Sarah Pruitt, independent.co.uk by Andrew Griffin, gaia.com by Simeon Hine, a PhD, and chowtest.cc, MS Srinivasan.
Nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. It was so good. Thank you.
No problem.
It honestly wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So
it's absolutely nothing like the show. I was like looking up the show because I thought like maybe you thought it might have been something to do with that.
That's what I thought. But it's not. So that was cool though. The show's still really dope.
But yeah, how crazy is that?
It was real cool. Like, oh, I wish that we could all just like learn. Yeah, I know it would be really cool to like learn how to do all that stuff. It's yeah, I don't know.
That's crazy.
I also think that would also be very bad because I think that there'd be a lot of negative things surrounding it if that were to happen, but if it was in the wrong hands.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But tell me your funny jokes.
Okay.
I'm excited.
I just have one, but I like it. What's the difference between a hippo and a zippo?
I don't know.
One's really heavy and the other is a little lighter.
That's funny. That's so stupid. It was great. Do you have any more?
Oh yeah, I do. Okay. I once fell into an upholstery machine. I'm fully recovered now.
That's great. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, if you want more of us lovely ladies, hopefully Ashley will be here next week to rein us in.
Mm-hmm.
If you want more of us, 3 lovely ladies, and here's some more super stupid jokes. You can follow us at Histories and Mysteries on Facebook and Instagram, and historiesandmysteries.ca is our website where you can shoot us a story if you like, or you can find all the places you can listen to us.
So yeah, rate, review, and subscribe, and tell your friends, and tell your dog, and tell your grandma, and tell the guy that lives down the street. And yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we look forward to bringing you 2 new stories next week. Bye.
Bye.